Dear friends and followers, welcome back to my channel and to the continuation of our interview series with Guillaume, a former pilot recruiter for a renowned airline. In today's video, we're diving into part 2 of our exclusive interview series. Whether you are an aspiring pilot or looking to take your aviation career to new heights, this series is packed with insider tips, advice, and everything you need to stand out in the competitive world of airline recruitment. So I hope you enjoyed part 2 of this series. What are you waiting for? And let's get started. Can you say roughly that if you compare the British Airways to the Emirates assessment, do they have similarities?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thanks for bringing that up because I kind of got into my train of thought here. Major airline selections are typically what we call advanced selections. Mm-hmm. So what do I mean by that? These airlines are large companies, large corporations, and they have in-house psychologists.
Yes.
Low-cost airlines sometimes will, most of the times won't. Mm-hmm. And you will know if it's an advanced selection or an advanced selection has an advanced interview.
Okay.
An advanced interview is an interview that is based on the result of a personality questionnaire. Mm-hmm. Okay? Mm-hmm. So major airlines have that in common, that they will have an in-house psychologist, mm-hmm. maybe 1, maybe 2, maybe 3, maybe even 4. I think in Emirates it was 4. And then they will also bring other psychologists who can come in case there's a big recruitment need. And what they will do is they will receive the personality questionnaire, they will treat it, and they will tailor questions just for you. And those questions that are just for you, guess what? They tend to want to be the ones that you would not like them to ask you.
Absolutely.
But they are basically questions based on, okay, I've seen the personality, what the personality questionnaire is giving me. I have a doubt. Mm-hmm. This person seems to be in this area, mm-hmm. but sometimes the job necessitates that they behave in this area. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Are they able to do it? So I'm going to ask some clever questions to see if they can. And when they do they do it because they have to? Mm-hmm. Do they resist while they are doing it? Mm-hmm. Do they manage? Do they do it willingly? Mm-hmm. Do they do it with some sort of grace? Mm-hmm. And how do they feel afterwards? Okay. And if I feel reassured, I will say, that's fine. Mm-hmm. So you're going to be subject to such questions mm-hmm. because these companies basically have access to everything that human resource science
available, yeah.
can make available. Mm-hmm. And low-cost airlines save on costs, and all of this costs money.
Okay.
So that's what the advanced selection is about. Now there are variations. Air France is interesting because at Air France there is no SIM assessment.
You're kidding?
No. Air France has a SIM assessment for a very small portion of people on which they have a doubt, and it's only for professionals.
Wow.
Yeah, and because they consider that if you've passed their psychometric test, mm-hmm. if you've done everything right mm-hmm. at the interview, and the group interview is quite complicated. At Air France, there's a lot of calculations involved. Mm-hmm. They consider that they can finish to train you.
Interesting.
It's interesting. Mm-hmm. It's been criticized. Personally, I think that it's their choice and it's worked. We know that they select their pilots very, very well. Mm-hmm. What happens afterwards is afterwards. We know that their selection is fair, mm-hmm. and you will have that for all major airline selections, and this works as well for low-cost selections. Mm-hmm. These selections are well known, mm-hmm. so preparing is not really an issue, but people focus on the surface. Mm-hmm. You have to do the foundation first, mm-hmm. because one of the questions that you could have could be, which non-technical competency do you think you can improve on? Yeah. You see? Mm-hmm. So if you know yourself, you can be really articulate and say, well, in this area, a couple of years ago, I found out that I was like this. And mm-hmm. so I set myself out to work in this direction. Mm-hmm. And I've already had results. Let me give you an example. And and here you go.
Nice. Okay. Very good. Very good. All right. Now that I think we might have slightly overheard this, but you are a recruiter yourself, or were a recruiter in the past. Yes. Yeah. Now, this is a great opportunity because I would like to know, or a lot of flight students would like to know, what do you want to see as a recruiter in the student?
Well, as a recruiter, you're going to have a very big say in the result. You're always recruiting in a pair so that it's fair. Because otherwise your subjectivity could come into play.
Understood.
Okay? Mm-hmm. Rule number 1 is that you don't take into account any personal circumstance from the candidate, meaning that if they have something going on in their life, they tell you that they're moving house, moving countries, that they are getting married, or you don't take any of this into account. Mm-hmm. You only focus on, can this person do the job tomorrow? The goal is to create a file with evidence. The recruiter needs evidence that the competencies that have been listed as required by the airline, that we have evidence that this person has showed the required competencies in a recent past or in a recent enough past, which gives us an indication that they are likely to behave in the same way in the future.
Understood. Okay.
And so we will be asking questions in order to fill this checklist. It's not really a checklist like little boxes. It's more that you can have 6 to 8 boxes where you need a competency to be filled. For instance, motivation, communication, problem solving, decision making, workload management, things like that. And you're going to ask questions that help you fill that box, where you will of course put a tick, but mostly you're going to put sentences of actual examples from this flight. Düsseldorf to Hamburg, he had this incident with this captain and this happened. You write everything.
Okay.
And then you will grade each competency and you will put your final opinion. So this happens, and you will assume that you will pass the person, which is what we expect. The recruiter wants to hire you, okay?
Yeah.
So you want to really help them do this exercise. So the recruiter has 1 hour, typically 1 hour, with the help of the psychologist and the personality questionnaire, to find out who you are and to fill these 8 boxes, these 6 to 8 boxes. You have 1 hour to help them fill these boxes in a way that is easy for them to document their file. If you are too verbose and you speak for way too long, if you don't reply to the questions clearly, if you seem to resist the exercise, you will make their life hard, and they're going to try for an hour. They're going to rephrase. They're going to ask you for another scenario. They're going to ask you for a more complex scenario. And if after 1 hour they didn't manage, even though you could be perfectly suited for the job, you failed the recruitment exercise, they will not take the risk of hiring you.
I think a key takeaway in this answer is actually that you said the recruiter is helping you. He's wanting you to pass, but you as the interviewee kind of have to lead him, obviously, first of all, truthful answers.
Yes.
And I mean, I remember doing my assessments that they basically had nothing besides my CV. They just had my life's history, more or less. And then they went right into this. They asked me all sorts of questions, literally which year I went to school, which school I went to, and all that. And I think that it's this, as you said, has to match with the answers of the psychologist or his assessment. And I remember that some of the questions that I was asked, they were very intimate. Like, because my parents are dentists, and then they said, "Oh, Joe, you mentioned that you're helpful." I can't imagine a son of a dentist being a helpful person. And I thought, I was really offended by that. But I think, again, being offended was a way of seeing if I kind of react to that question in like aggressively or back off. I'm not going to go into private matters here. I'm not sure if that was the case, but it felt at least like that.
Well, this would not be qualified as a good question. This is where
back to my
yes, because this falls into not taking into personal circumstances into account and not building. How does this question help understand how you are going to behave tomorrow in a professional environment?
Very true, thank you.
But maybe it's because they wanted to see if you were going to get upset. But a better question would have been, tell us a time where you worked with a colleague and disagreed. Tell us a time when someone worked you up and it got into a confrontation. This would be a much better.
I like that.
You see, than trying to get someone to react, or their parents being a dentist. Like, well, but maybe they were just trying to say something funny to relax you. Apparently it failed.
I passed. It was okay.
But you passed.
I remained calm.
You remained
calm.
As
I said, it was a very, it made me feel uncomfortable in that minute. And then I kind of had to take a breather, and I thought, okay, just like stay professional, just answer professionally. And it was okay. Guillaume, can you sort of give us an overview of what are the main reasons why students fail during the assessment?
Yeah, so there are essentially 3 main reasons.
Okay.
Of course, you could cut it in different subsegments, but the 3 main reasons. The first one, everybody knows that, although students might not realize, it's English.
Okay.
It's the command of English. Now, if you're French and you're going for Air France, this won't apply. If you're German and applying for Lufthansa, this won't apply. Okay. And if you're a British national or someone who's got English as their mother tongue, it won't apply either. Yet a lot of applicants apply for low-cost airlines that take pilots from all over Europe, or airlines that take pilots from all over the world, like Emirates. This applies as well. The number one reason is English. Why? Because one of the most important competencies that is sought by recruiters is communication. Obviously, we know that human factors cause 70% of incidents and accidents. Inside that, a large majority are due to communication, and the vector of communication is language. If you struggle with language, you're going to struggle with communication, you're going to struggle with CRM, you're going to struggle with, and basically flying with you is going to be difficult. And this is going to be very visible at the assessment already, because when you are going to be at the start, at the group interview, you are going to interface with others, and you're probably wondering at the moment, well, how do I know if I've got the right level of English? I often say, if you're translating in your head, when you're speaking English, you're not good enough.
I understand.
The second reason why people would fail an airline selection is lack of preparation.
Okay.
So you've been through flight school. So I'm going to assume here, now if you're a cadet, this is even more relevant. But if you're a flight school student, you get out of flight school, and ever since you started flight school, you've been guided. And you've been trained before being evaluated. You get trained for your CPL, you do a CPL test flight, and then you do your exam, and you pass. And then same for your IR, and then same at the MCC, which is even easier in a sense. Okay. And now you're out in the open, and you feel that you've been working constantly. You've done your ATPL theory, your CPL, your IR, the MCC. Wow, the MCC, I love that. I can't wait until I'm on the big plane. And you feel that that's it. You know, okay, now I'm going to start to send some CVs.
Yeah.
And now you go, oh my God, how do I go about this? And typically you start to realize that there's a lot of work. And for most people, they start to understand that trying to get quick solutions is not going to work. Those who look for a quick way to prepare, usually things don't go too well because they lack depth.
Yeah.
But the right attitude to have is, I'll do whatever it takes. Okay, I'm ready to work a lot. And a lot of people underestimate that. They underestimate, for instance, that they are joining, and that's something we'll probably discuss later on as well, that they are joining an airline, not just a cockpit where they get to press lots of cool switches, land on really cool runways, walk through the airport with really cool cabin crew. That's not the job is not just that. You're part of something bigger. You're part of an airline. So if you misunderstand how much you have to prepare, then you don't prepare adequately. And usually the way I try to explain this visually is, you just climbed a big mountain, and the second one was in the clouds. You didn't see it. So and now you got, oh my God, I've got another mountain to climb. And people just don't see it. And it seems like it's really high when they realize, okay? So the second biggest reason why people fail is that they misunderstand that, and they get to understanding when the recruitment's too close. They're understanding when they failed.
Okay, yeah.
And now they go like, okay, I missed the mountain by a lot. Now, how do I equip myself? How do I climb this mountain properly? So that's the second reason.
All right, okay.
Third reason is a poor understanding of the recruiter. So we discussed what the recruiter was looking for in previous segments. So if you don't understand that, then you're left guessing. You arrive in the recruitment building, guessing, not knowing, which creates a lack of confidence. And that the first difficult question, you're going to lose your confidence exponentially, which could be very tough on you. So not understanding the person in front of you is very difficult. So a lot of students, again, they prepare. They go like, I know I'm going to have this exercise, that exercise to do. They prepare for that exercise exactly. They know, for instance, at the group interview for this airline, they're going to do a scenario like this. I need to position myself like that. It's good if I do this. Then for the psychometrics, I've got 10 things to do. And then at the interview, I've got a list of questions they may ask because my friends told me that they would ask me this. And so it's like this. But you need to understand what the other person in front of you needs.
Yeah.
It's the base of sales, really. What does the person in front of me need? And if I provide them that in a way that is digest, in a way that is articulate, in the way that is pleasant to receive, and for the recruiter, what does that mean? That they don't have to repeat themselves too much, that this comes in a way that it's easy for them to write it, that then your interview can last can be fairly short, and then you will enter an area where basically your success rate is probably going to be quite high. Imagine yourself like a boxer, basically. Although it's not a fight, in a way, you're actually fighting for your for your selection.
Yeah.
You want to have the energy, and you know how in a boxing fight, at the end they struggle to keep their guard up. This is exactly what happens at the interview.
Okay.
You have a feeling that it went well, and now you're relaxing towards the end. You've been together with these other human beings, and you feel like they've been nice and all of that. And now they might ask you, they might go for the uppercut, the sort of question that you didn't want them to ask. And all of a sudden, you give them an answer that's irrelevant. You give them the example you should not have given because you feel you're in a trusting mode. Remember, you're at the interview. You're fighting for your life here.
That's good. Okay.
Yeah. So you want to keep that guard up in order to give them only what is relevant for this interview. And you might think, oh my God, this is a bit artificial. No. Once you go through the training, you will understand. Yeah.
I agree. The one thing that I sort of a key tip that I give away to students that ask me is the assessment or the interview ends when you have left the room. I'm saying this specifically left the room because I remember when I did it, I specifically asked, do you want me to close the door? And the psychologist, I like your thinking, Joe. He literally said that. And to me, I don't know, let's say you storm out of the room or you walk out of the room, you don't close the door.
Interesting.
It could be a little sort of, maybe somebody will see, okay, look at this kid. He doesn't even close the door behind himself. So it was a polite question that I asked, and the psychologist sort of, reassured me that it's a good question to ask. And then I felt comfortable.
Exactly. It's not over until it's over. And I've had candidates who, the best illustration of what I just said is, at the end of the interview, often they say, do you have any questions for us? And I've had candidates fail their interview on the question that they asked. And you might wonder, how is this possible? Well, if you ask a question that will get us to wonder whether you actually studied what this job position was entitling, was meaning, then we're going to ask you more questions. In these cases, the interview lasted for 10 more minutes.
Sorry guys, this is the end of part 2 of our interview series, Insights of an Airline Pilots Recruiter. Thanks for watching part 2, and I hope you found this conversation insightful. Here you'll find a link to the 3rd video of this series. Looking forward to seeing you there, and don't forget, a good pilot is always learning. Wishing you all the best. You're Captain Joe.